Early one morning a little over 70 years ago, a cargo ship containing ammonium nitrate caught on fire in the port of Texas City. For 2 hours, the ship's crewmen and the local fire department fought the growing blaze aggressively, and groups of spectators gathered along the shore to watch the unusual sight. Then, just after 9 a.m., the ship exploded, causing hundreds of deaths and widespread damage across the harbor and town. Let's explore what led to the Texas City disaster and the lasting local legacy the calamity has had. The story of the disaster starts with the SS Grandcamp, a World War II cargo ship that had been assigned to the French line for rebuilding. The Grandcamp was here in Texas City to be loaded up with ammonium nitrate bound for France. Longshoremen had loaded bags into the Grandcamp the day before the disaster and noted they were hot to the touch. At 8 a.m. on April 16, 1947, smoke was spotted coming from the ship's cargo hold. Crew members began fighting the fire quickly, and although it was temporarily suppressed several times, it continued to grow. The captain had the hold steamed as an attempt to control the fire, a last-ditch effort at saving the ship that effectively just increased pressure in the vessel. Shortly after, the pressure in the ship blew open the hatches, and spectators gathered along the shoreline to watch as orange smoke billowed out into the sky. The heat from the inferno was hot enough to vaporize extinguishers' water flow and boil the water in Texas City Harbor, a premonition to the impending catastrophe. Even after the hatches blew open, pressure continued to build within the cargo hold. At 9:12 a.m., the vessel detonated, sending a devastating blast out from the port, killing nearly everyone nearby and leveling thousands of buildings. A 15-foot wave radiated out from the site into Galveston Bay. 10 miles away on Galveston Island, thousands of windows were shattered as pedestrians were knocked over. The blast was audible as far away as 150 miles. 2 small airplanes flying near the site crashed as the blast blew their wings off, and the ship's anchor was famously thrown 1.6 miles in the explosion, resting in a 10-foot crater. Texas City was in shock, but the tragedy was not over. After the initial blast, the complications of the explosion began to unfold. The Monsanto chemical plant adjacent to the harbor was destroyed, and refineries and storage tanks were ablaze. The SS High Flyer, another ship in the same harbor also stocked full of ammonium nitrate, caught on fire during the Grandcamp's explosion, triggering another even larger explosion hours later. The casualties here were few. Most of those who survived the first explosion had retreated away from the harbor. It would take over a week to fully extinguish the fires. The blast killed all but one member of Texas City's fire department, and firefighters had come in from across the country, both to fight the fire and search for bodies. By the time the smoke settled, much of Texas City lay in ruin. There were 581 official deaths, but the total was likely larger. Thousands had been injured. The property damage caused was also widespread. Plants and businesses were inoperable or flat-out destroyed, along with over 500 houses, leaving thousands of people homeless. To this day, the Texas City disaster is considered the worst industrial accident in U.S. history. The devastation led to an outpouring of support and the establishment of the Texas City Relief Fund. Sam Maceo, a Sicilian organized crime boss based in Galveston, led a benefit on the island featuring acts as big as Frank Sinatra. Industrial giants with a presence in Texas City provided financial support and vowed to rebuild. Today, Texas City is still a petrochemical powerhouse. The disaster also triggered the first-ever class action lawsuit against the U.S. government. The suit accused government entities of being negligent in the events leading up to the disaster. After initial success in lower courts, the suit was overturned by the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, a decision affirmed by the Supreme Court in 1953. Although the precedent limiting the liability of the U.S. government was set, Congress did allocate over $17 million in relief funds to the incident. Today, the anchors and propellers of the Grandcamp and High Flyer, which had been projectiles in the explosions at the harbor, are featured in parks and monuments across Texas City. The Grandcamp's main anchor is located in a memorial where all the unidentified bodies are buried. The rest can be found along the waterfront and along the city's main street. It's been a long time since one of the most devastating explosions in history. But even 70 years later, the legacy of the disaster lives on here in Texas City.